Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, today we are going to talk about emergency preparedness, which is very important for every male or female, elderly or newly born. Safety first, that's what we believe. So I'm going to talk about emergency response and I'll be talking on various pages, but I'll be using my own experience of 48 years to brief you about what I have seen, what I have done, and what could be done better by you. Applicability of emergency preparedness is mainly everywhere. It can be a home, it can be a theater, it can be a factory, or it can be a laundry. So, whether it is production or manufacturing, whether it is research and development, whether it is storage and distribution, means warehousing, or it is infrastructure and operation everywhere. This is applicable. What can happen if, how can you say it is emergency? So there are four different types of emergency scenarios. The first one is a fire, which you can see in the picture. That fire is something which is really killing people, not because of heat, but also because of smoke. The second one is explosion. When there is uncontrolled fire, then it is followed by explosion. Then there is chemical spill, a tanker getting toppled and highly flammable liquid or chemical coming out from the top cover. Or it can be a natural disaster, which is happening now much more because of the climate change. Now, we should have fire protection system, which is very important. Even in the societies, the corporation tells that you must have fire protection system, and they come and carry out inspection and they give you a notice if you are not ready to protect the people from fire. So fire protection system is a must at every place. That's one important thing. Emergency control center. This is a place where on activation of emergency siren, the emergency main controller or site main controller goes with his team, which is called a communication team, and commands the steps required to mitigate the emergency. So this place is very important and it has to be in such a way that people are not trapped at this place because of the wind direction. Looking to the next thing, the importance of PPE cannot be ignored because if there is a smoke and people have to go and rescue the trapped people, then they need to have a mask which will protect them from the smoke. So PPE is required for all types. If somebody is got stuck on the top of the scaffold and is hanging, then we need to have the emergency requirement to pull him down. So for all these things, it is very important to have a rescue mechanism. Then medical center, again, if somebody gets injured or hurt in the emergency, or even if it can be medical emergency where there is food poisoning and people have mass casualties, vomiting and other things, you need to take them to the hospital. So you should have a contract with a nearby hospital, which is very important. Then evacuation of the employees. How do you know? If there is a siren, people have to stop walking, get out of the building, the scene where there is a disaster or emergency, and assemble at a pre-decided points depending upon the wind direction. So evacuation is the responsibility of every department, and they should ask their employees to walk to the assembly point, not run, because in the running there can be more injuries. Then headcount system, whether all the people who are there in the factory who have punched car and got in, including visitors, they have to be taken care of and you need to do headcount. And headcount is to be done to ensure that The people who have entered inside the factory are there at the assembly points. One assembly point or several assembly points. Then, how do you treat the injured or affected employees? You can do that at your medical center. And if you think that the first aid can be given, you have trained first aiders. They can give first aid. Or if somebody is getting electrocuted, then CPR can be given. Or if no possibility of treating them at site, they have to be transported to the nearest hospital with whom you have a contract. So very important part to have contract with the nearby trauma center or hospital. Next is siren activation for emergency and all clear. The training has to be given to all the employees to ensure that they can, on hearing of the siren, start evacuation. And some factories have the system where there is a second siren, so they have to evacuate. And when emergency is mitigated, eliminated, then they have to go back after hearing all clear siren. Then closing meeting, very important aspect. What is the learning from the emergency? The emergency can be simulated one or actual one, but learnings are always there from everything. So either you have MARG members, mutual aid and response group members, who are from other factories, whether you have somebody from factory inspectorate or even your observers, you need to discuss in the closing meeting what went wrong and what could have been done better. So this is very important. Then importance of emergency preparedness. This is the last step to protect your employees. If everything fails, then emergency is something which is going to save your people. So everybody must have emergency response plan. Emergency response plan practices through mock drills and learning and improving. So importance of emergency preparedness is huge. So train your people so that they can fight emergency and does not allow the emergency to get out of the gate and become off-site emergency from on-site emergency. Now fire detection and suppression. So every factory must have these systems of fire detection and suppression. So firefighting and fire detection, these are two different aspects. So you should not only be capable of fire detection, you should be able to protect from fire by fire extinguishing mechanisms. So this is a part of the emergency response plan. Then roles and responsibility of emergency response team, we call them ERT members. They should be multi-skilled. They should be trained in first aid. They should be trained in firefighting. They should be trained in rescue. Multi-skilling people will help you reduce the number of people. Otherwise, you will have 20 guys in first aid, 20 guys in firefighting, 20 guys in rescue. Then it is difficult. There will be, misunderstandings and goof-ups. So multi-skilling is very important. Emergency communication and coordination generally done through walkie-talkie or mobiles or landlines, or in case of highly flammable factories using walkie-talkies which are flame-proof. So that is being done. First aid and medical response, yes, you should have 24/7 male nurses, one female nurse in general shift, and first aid kits at various places, and larger first aid equipment at the medical center. Accountability and headcount procedures. So how do you decide the accountability? Accountability is something which will make you understand that, okay, Department A had 20 employees, Department B had 30 employees. So every department head has a responsibility to ensure that his people come and be at the assembly points. If there are contract workmen, they should also be counted in the headcount. Then decontamination and cleanup. Suppose a chemical has spilled and there is a need if it is a toxic or flammable. Now many times it happens that sometimes flammable material spills People try to collect it and use at homes, and they get hurt, and there are fatalities. If it is a toxic, then they inhale and they become serious. So very important to decontamination and cleanup through skilled manpower, trained manpower. Post-incident review and lessons learned, which we discussed in the closing meeting, and closing meeting should be recorded, documented, and the lacuna have to be closed. Regulatory requirements are there as per Factories Act. Emergency response plan has to be prepared and reviewed every year, and a copy submitted to district authorities, including factory inspectorate. Continuous improvement and drills. Suppose you have identified 12 scenarios. Regulatorily, it is required to have one drill every 6 months. But if you have 12 scenarios, you cannot complete all the scenarios in 1 year. So, for those scenarios which are not completed, you can have a mock drill or tabletop. Tabletop exercise is something which is going to protect you from being senseless in case of emergency, because you have practiced it in a group through tabletop. So conclusion and key takeaways is preparation is very important, positive approach is very important, continuous improvement is very important, and safety placement. Safety is a paramount, and safety must be considered as top priority, and it should be an integral part of the business. That is what is important. So thank you very much everybody.